As a landlord, you want to keep good tenants in your rental property. Lease renewals can help achieve this goal while ensuring that both parties are on the same page. In this video, we'll cover everything you need to know about lease renewal letters, including their purpose, how to write one, and where to find free templates. So if you're ready to learn more about lease renewals, then let's get started. When should landlords send a renewal letter to tenants? Ideally, landlords should send tenants a lease renewal letter with enough time. With this document, they know the leasee's decision and prevent their rental business from stopping if those who occupy the property plan to leave. If they decide not to continue with the agreement, property owners must also notify leasees as soon as possible to make sure they have enough time to find a new tenant. However, some states have a set time frame indicating when landlords are required to send tenants a lease renewal letter. The period depends on the lease term that both parties agreed to. If it was not addressed in the original contract, landlords must consider their state's laws. In most states, the lease renewal notice period is 30 to 60 days. If landlords don't send the letter within that time frame, the rental arrangement becomes a month-to-month lease as soon as the current lease expires. Some states don't require property owners to send a letter within a specific period. However, doing so before the lease end date can bring several benefits, including tenants would have enough time to make a decision and inform landlords about it. Both parties could negotiate the new conditions or changes for a lease renewal agreement. Landlords would have time to screen potential tenants or advertise the rental property if current leasees decide not to renew the agreement. What should a lease renewal letter include? Those who own or manage a rental property should be aware of their estate's requirements on lease renewals and the time frame for sending letters or notices to make sure they comply with local laws. Additionally, landlords must know what to include in these documents and be prepared to submit them before the original lease expires. We'll share some templates at the end, but let's check what you should include in a lease renewal letter. Details that a lease renewal letter should include: landlord and tenant names, both parties' contact information, date when landlord sent the letter, whether landlord wants to renew the lease agreement or not, copy of the current lease agreement, property address and number, date tenants must pay the last payment, existing lease expiration date, deadline for tenant's response, property owner's signature, and tenant's acknowledgement. If landlords expect to renew the lease, this letter may also include the following information: new monthly payment, new lease conditions, including terms, rates, and dates, changes to the original lease agreement, conditions added to the new lease agreement, what the tenant must do if they want to renew the lease. The lease renewal letter must also include this additional information if landlords don't want to continue with the rental agreement. Date the tenant must vacate the rental property. If landlords allow the original lease to expire and become a month-to-month rental agreement. Explain what a month-to-month rental is. Reasons for not renewing the lease. It's mandatory only in some states. How to send a letter to renew a lease agreement. Property owners and managers can send a lease renewal letter by mail, email, or in person. However, they should always follow a few steps to ensure they have a receipt or other required documentation. Sending the lease renewal letter by restricted certified mail is a good option, as it requires the tenants to sign a receipt. However, landlords can also deliver the letter in person and ask the tenants to sign a document indicating that they received the notice. A lease renewal letter can also be sent with delivery and receipts to document that it has been delivered and received by the tenant. In addition, property owners should keep a copy of the notice and a notation on the mean they used to send it. What should landlords consider before sending a lease renewal letter? Landlords must be sure they want to enter into a new rental lease agreement before submitting this document. Therefore, they must consider some key aspects. Here are some questions that property owners and managers should answer to determine if a lease renewal agreement is a good option. Do you want to keep quality tenants? If the current leasees pay rent on time or keep the unit in good condition, a lease renewal could be a smart move. Is the original lease period expiring in 90 days? As mentioned, landlords should send a lease renewal letter before the time frame expires. Therefore, checking local landlord-tenant laws is essential. Do you plan to change the rent price or some terms? A lease agreement renewal allows property owners to make some changes to the conditions set in the original contract. How long do you want to renew the rental agreement? Landlords can offer lease renewals for any time frame, but it's common to do so for the same length. Would you agree to a month-to-month lease renewal? It's another good way to keep good tenants if they don't want a long-term lease. When do you expect to receive a response from the tenant? A lease renewal letter must also include when landlords expect a response from the tenants. Renewing lease agreement terms. Landlords who expect to alter some conditions in the rental agreement must also include that information in the letter. Overall, property owners may consider the following changes for a lease renewal: increase in the rent price to reflect the current market, rent price reduction to encourage good tenants to stay in the property, change to a month-to-month lease or if the landlord plans to sell the property, terms or potential solutions to issues that arose during the existing lease period. In other words, landlords can send a lease renewal letter to negotiate this. Rules or policies, rent price, security deposit, lease duration, renter's insurance requirements, and payment methods. Should landlords renew a lease? Property owners don't have to renew a lease. They have the right to decide if they want the existing tenant to stay on the property and come to a new agreement. Some states have landlord-tenant laws that define some circumstances when property owners or managers cannot end an original rental agreement even if the lease term ends. However, they're very limited. In addition, ending a tenant's lease is considered part of the landlord's rights if they duly inform the tenants of their decision in accordance with state requirements. If a landlord doesn't want to renew the lease after the rental period ends, they must send a written confirmation with some instructions that typically include the following: returning keys, cleaning all of the appliance properly, removing personal items, removing trash, repairing any damages that tenants or the guest may have caused to the property, suspend cable and phone services. And that's all for now. We hope this video has been informative and helpful to you. Remember, sending a lease renewal letter can help you keep great tenants and maintain a positive relationship with them. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. Be sure to check out the link in the description for a free lease renewal letter template and any other helpful resources to you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more informative videos for landlords and property managers. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.